are going to clean up the inks on Boba Fett here a little bit, and we're going to do some coloring to kind of set the tone, because everybody loves some Boba Fett. That's what I'm saying. Alright, so I am using my, it's called a kneaded eraser. Not like I need it, but like you can like squish it and bend it and do stuff. They're fun and usually pretty good. Usually pretty good at getting paper and stuff pretty clean. You do have to be a little bit careful sometimes, because if you use like really soft graphite or more of the charcoal pencils, like sometimes they can smudge, but they're pretty gentle on your paper, so they usually don't mess things up too bad. That's why I love them. Alright, I'm going to talk a little bit more about coloring Boba Fett. Let me get out some gray markers here. I'm actually going to try to do a little bit of modeling with the markers as I go, because his helmet is usually all beat up, which is both fun and cool.
What do you mean modeling?
Modeling, M-O-D-E-L-I-N-G, modeling, where you kind of you model the colors to match certain effects. Although there is a mottling, M-O-T-T-L-I-N-G. That's kind of like uneven patterns. That might actually happen by accident in this process, but it's not what I'm going for. I'm going to try to make some things look like some other things. Now, I do not have the lighter green that I usually like to use, so this the green that's going to go in here is going to maybe be a little bit heavy. So I'm trying to lay down some silver underneath it for places where I want the silver to be. I just got some ideas about some of these spots. I'm just going to lay some, I guess we'll call it a gray base or a silver base underneath here. And if you weren't here last time, we were rushing a little bit on Boba Fett's inks. I'll clean them up after we get the colors down. I'll switch over to the green that I was talking about. It is a little bit heavy. So, you know, maybe this is before his helmet starts to fade out a little bit from all the trips to Tatooine. 2 suns there really fade your stuff. I think I already said his helmet is usually pretty beat up, so if you want to try to get some authentic details in there, try to have some things that look like blaster smears, or maybe he's kind of bounced off some things. Usually his helmet is it's kind of a light blue-green that kind of borders on an olive like this. I think on the one side he's got a pretty pronounced dent, and for the life of me I cannot remember if they ever said what did that. And then he usually has kind of a scrape over here on this side. So I'm just going to kind of lay that silver spot right there. usually like to have one of my older markers that's dying when I do these, because I can do some nice dry brush kind of effects for the helmet. Kind of keeps it authentic, I think. Just going to add a couple accent lines and streaks here. There usually is right here nice tick marks. Okay, and I'm just going to real quick add a little bit down here at the bottom of these angled pieces on his visor. A lot of times I'll make some cuts, or I don't know if you, maybe they're smears or maybe they're the paint peeling away. Go back to one of my gray markers for a second, because you can blend the Prismacolors. A lot of times it will take the two and give you some nice effects. You can also play up some more of those smears and kind of absorb a little bit of that color. And this marker is actually dying just a little bit so I can get some of that dry brush that I like sometimes. Right here you can see I'm really mixing. Really kind of cuts in to that green, softens it a little bit. Now let's try to get up here into some of these heavier spots. Let that eat in there a little bit. Here, I'm going to go to his, I guess this is the front faceplate. This thing is, it's actually red with a lot of chips in it. So I'll kind of, I'll try to play up that this has seen a little bit of damage. And there's a lot of ways that you can go about that. Just take this in little pieces and not connect everything. Or you can kind of make some streaks. There are parts where it's all there, but it's kind of up to you. You can play with it. You know, looking at photo reference can be fun for trying different things, or if you really want to try to nail, you know, the official look, then you can do that. A lot of times I try to hint at a little bit of a lip on it right there. So I'll leave just like a little bit of a highlight line. And usually this is actually silver underneath here, so I'll come back in and I'll drop some silver. There can be a lot of detail in a Boba Fett drawing, which is why some people won't usually spend a lot of time trying to draw him. But I think that also can be one of the fun things about working on him. If you want to try to be detailed, he's a good subject. Although simplifying him, trying to understand how he's put together, that can be a very interesting exercise. And that's where studying him, studying pictures of him can get very cool. You try to distill him to what makes him Boba Fett when you're doing those simplifications. That usually works good when you're not doing maybe such a realistic drawing. If you're doing a more comic or cartoon style version of him, you distill it down to what makes Boba Fett Boba Fett. Maybe that's, maybe that's recognizable parts of the visor or his uniform, certain shapes. It's always a good exercise to abstract a character that's very detailed. See how simple you can make it and still recognize the character. Sometimes I'll just take the pen on the bigger notch, and I'll just drop some little spots on it that can create some cool patterns. And this actually would be the M-O-T-T-L-I-N-G, mottling. So it does come into play. This top part of the visor is always kind of interesting because it usually has parts where you can see like this top part of the helmet, it's taken some damage or whatever, so a lot of times those kind of work their way into this top part of the visor, which can be fun. So I'm just going to kind of leave some streaks. And kind of match up with those lines right there. Do some heavy blacks in the middle here. There's these little supportive pieces underneath the red part of the visor. They have kind of interesting shape to them. Kind of brings the visor forward enough to cover the nose without squishing it, right? But then it provides a little protection back to the cheekbones and things. Cement these lines a little bit here with some thick accents. A lot of times when I'm doing this under part of the helmet, I like to see the dry parts of the brush, especially over in this piece where these two touch, because it gives it a little bit of volume. And if you want, you can still run that silver pen over this piece just a little bit and fill it in. It should still look pretty sweet. It's a technical term, sweet. I'm just going to add some extra bold lines here to try to make up for some of the rushing I did initially. Just clean these up just a touch. It'll also provide some nice holding lines for the outside when it's doing that cleanup. There's the magic Sharpie noise right there. I've managed to avoid making that noise most of the time, I think. I add some serious black here, not Harry Potter, but a heavy pigment. This part is actually some kind of plexiglass or dark faceplate glass. A lot of times you can add a little bit of glass rendering to it, and by that I mean highlights. So I'm going to leave a little bit of white in there, so you can see some reflections, or you can see that it's not just a flat piece. I usually try not to give up on a pen until it's really, really done. Sometimes it just happens. I'm just adding a little bit of a black line on the edge of some of these streaks that I made, just to try to give that like a little bit of volume. Come back over here. Add some thin lines, some slightly thicker lines. And that'll help add a little bit of character to those. Because it looks like my green lines bled together a little bit, so it's too bad we lost those in the detail. Well, I should have been probably more careful at the beginning to make sure that those could have stayed yellow. That's my fault in planning. I'm going to take over this piece just a little bit. Sometimes it can be fun to add like a little bit of a wavy line into your I'm going to come back with a little bit of silver here and fill this in just a touch. Put some more in there. Go to the other side. You can see that it's even adding a little bit more on top of that black. So one of the fun things about the markers is a lot of times it really will take just a little bit more pigment. You can create some richer colors, or you can create some variation maybe you weren't thinking you could get. Actually, I think I'll add just a little bit of extra gray tone in here. and we have Boba Fett.